The station of the stars. RTI.
And welcome to Postcard from Poprad with Eric and Lee. Rachel's away busy at the moment, but she might well be joining us in a bit. I don't know. Oh, we've turned the fan up now, boys and girls. Oh. You despair sometimes, don't you? You really do despair sometimes. And you say to him, turn the fan off, and what does he do? He turns the fan up higher. You just cannot win. Well, welcome to sunny Poprad, at the base of the glorious Tattery Mountains, with himself abusing the local hostilleries. Hang on, which one are you on now? I think you're on that one.
I have no idea.
No, you're not close enough anyway, so I mean...
I'm not talking to anybody.
That's all right then. So where are we? Yes, we're here. Dave's breaking all the rules today.
Hello.
Do a hello again.
Hello.
No, it's not definitely not that one, it's that one.
Which? That one?
No, that one.
That's what I've just said it into.
Oh, for goodness sake. Afternoon, Steve. Dave Rhodes is doing a Bring Your Daughter to Work day today. So hello, Lou, if you're with him. Chris Derrick is there, as is... oh, my word, Martina's there. Now I'm in trouble.
Oh, heck.
Oh, wait, I have to be a good boy. Do I have to say, Dubri Den Martino Ako Samaj?
No.
Don't?
No, just say hello, sweetie.
Hello, sweetie. I say hello, sweetie then. Hi to David. Must be hot in the studio. You two sitting there. Ha, 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 ha. Very droll, Petra. Arthur's joined us. Lovely to have Arthur with us.
Who's Arthur?
Arthur Sutherland is one of the old stalwarts of offshore radio.
Is he indeed? Hello, Arthur.
Which I think is absolutely flipping marvellous.
You can get rid of warts now.
Huh?
You said he got warts.
Hey?
You said he got warts.
How do you mean he's got what? Stalwart, dear boy.
Oh, sorry.
Stalwart.
Sorry, Arthur.
He's a stalwart, dear boy. I can see that Lee is trying the Billy Connolly look today. Yeah, he's failing. Failing miserably, Steve. As am I. If you're listening on the radio rather than watching on the TV, I'm now going to be very butch. Look. See?
Hey!
Oh, look at that! Look at that. That's me bragging rights done. Lou says hi in between slaving over PCs and sorting the stationery cupboard. What a dad that bloke is.
That's Lou. Lou's the daughter, not the dad.
Yeah, but Dave Rhodes is getting his daughter to slave away over PCs and organise the stationery cupboard just because she's go to work with Dad Day.
I've had go to work with Dad days.
Have you?
Yeah, and it was lovely. It's lovely.
Oh, right.
Well, I didn't lock them up in a stationery cupboard, David.
Okay. Naomi's joined us, says, afternoon, boys. Oh, I like that.
Oh, hello, Naomi.
We like boys. That's good, isn't it?
Don't say we like boys.
Well, it is. It's a great thing to... We can. She says, afternoon, boys. I like that introduction.
I like that introduction. Yes,
please don't be picking on Petra or Martina, please.
Who's that?
Ah, that's true. And Arthur says, I thought Peter Stringfellow had passed away. Oh, I love it.
What's he mean?
I know what he means. Hello to Bill as well. Nice to have you with us. Steve Young says, hello, good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good, very funny. Good afternoon, because Arthur's there as
Arthur.
well. Yeah, I get it.
What a joke.
Okay, let's just remind everybody, it's coming up to that time of the year again.
Which
on
time?
Tuesday, the 14th of August, as we do annually on the station, we'll be remembering the offshore radio stations, and it will start at 0001 UK time on the 14th, right at midnight on the Tuesday morning. It will start the day we remember radio stations forced off the air by governments. In 1967, that was Harold Wilson's Labour bullies. But the fight for free radio continues even into 2018. And so I'm not going to tell you what's there. It's slightly different this year because I found some other stuff that I haven't used as stuff before.
Right.
Even though I've been doing this for decades.
He has. And it's really good, actually.
Yeah.
A bit repetitive.
In the old days, Dave would have been getting his kids to change the transmitter valves on Take Your Kids to Work Day. Actually, he'd have had his kids cutting tape, Steve. Yeah, he would. He'd have had the kids cutting tape to edit programmes for him.
That's a good thing.
Is it?
Well, actually, yeah, I think so. Things like that, I used to take them. I've got to get... Hello.
That's better.
I used to take them into the newspaper offices, and they used to do things like sizing pictures and things like that, and they used to find it fascinating. And it stood them in good stead for the use of computerers.
Dave says, razor blades out for editing. Actually, there's a true story about my Caroline.
Yes.
Because on Christmas Day, on the World Service, they used to have a child doing a Christmas show.
Oh, right,
Day, which is rather nice.
Nice.
So we go to Bush House, as you do in the old days, and the producer's there, and she said to me, "Will Caroline be okay, dear?" I said, "Yeah, no problem." And so she said to Caroline, "Can you say this for me, Caroline?" So Caroline said, yes, of course.
How old was Caroline?
4.5.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And producer went out and waved to her, and Caroline waved back, and she said, "You can start talking now." And Caroline went, she just shook her head, which doesn't work on the radio. So eventually we went back in, and this producer's getting a bit, "You told me she could do radio, blah, 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 blah." So we go into, she said, "Caroline, what's the problem?" She said, "Daddy said you can't do radio without your headphones, and I haven't got any headphones."
Quite right, too.
Absolutely.
Yes, so look at me.
So she refused.
Don't blame her. I've never had headphones.
Are we using offshore radio clips or land-based clips? Only offshore.
Who asked that?
Steve.
But Steve, man.
Yes.
Have you become an anorak now, Steve?
No, I think he's a bit of a land-based anorak. There were a couple of land-based stations, Jackie being one and Sunshine being another. They were actually very reputable in their own piratical way. But unfortunately, the land-based pirates tended to be not such nice people. Although there was one once when we were doing a project for Bromley Hospital. And this is another one of those anecdotal stories that you keep nagging me about.
Oh, right, yeah.
One of those. And I thought it would be kind of funny, as you do, to take the mickey out of the government. So I applied for what they call a restricted service licence for 28 days to raise money for Bromley Hospital for one of these machines that diagnoses problems on babies before they're born, because Caroline was quite poorly when she was born. So I called it Radio for New Infants.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it's quite good. And I asked permission to abbreviate it to RNI, which they said, yeah, that's fine. So I then spoke to my mate up in Scandinavia who owned all the jingles for RNI, which was really Radio Nordsee International, the pirate station.
Oh, right.
And so we had all the pirate jingles. This is radio, this is RNI, da-da-da-da-da. And that's what we used on the station. And every time I did it, I just got this warm, cuddly, fuzzy feeling going to the government, who tried to jam them.
Really?
Yeah, they actually got the GPO in the 1970s to go put this beep, 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 beep jamming signal out on a station that wasn't even in the UK.
Tush.
Tush. But anyway, it doesn't matter because I won, because we had RNI first. Steve's always been an anorak. When I was listening in the 80s, it was mainly land-based pirates. Well, they were a bit different in the 80s, Steve, I have to say. But there was one occasion, again with the radio station, where we went to go on air on 87.7, I think it was, on the FM band. And there was this unbelievably strong pirate station on the same frequency.
Yeah.
Which meant nobody would have heard us.
Yeah.
So I thought, I'll blow this, I'll phone him up. And I did. And it was a really high energy dance station on there. Yeah. And the guy said, yeah, okay. He said, no problem. Hello, Rob. And Robert. And the guy said, yeah, no problem, Eric. He said, we'll change frequencies for you.
Yeah.
So I thought, that's flipping. And I was still not quite sure. But anyways, we got to about 10 to 12 in the middle of the night when we were supposed to come on. This guy who run this pirate station comes on the air and says, we're going to be moving frequency to help RNI, Radio for New Infants, and we want you to stay and listen to them and give them lots of money. And this was a pirate doing it. And he did, he moved away.
There's some good pirates.
Absolutely. Yeah, there are some
Not
good
all like Johnny Depp.
We will have... R&I was great fun. It was, wasn't it, Dave? Oh, did we have fun with that and taking the mickey out of everybody? I think because it's all changed now, we had an inspection from the then regulator, which doesn't exist anymore. And the top tip I got from the engineer was, why don't you put some more connectors in the line, because then you can increase your power by a watt. Every one connector was 1 watt. So I said, and he said, what's the transmitter power? I said, 50 watts.
There's a lot of watts in this.
And he says, hold on a minute, I'll go to my van. So he came back with this huge chunk of metal, which was actually something like 30 connectors all joined together.
Yeah.
Which means you get absolutely no loss whatsoever.
Who else is interested in this?
But it enabled me to broadcast with 50 watts of power instead of 15.
Oh, brilliant! Should we get on with the show?
Rick Dane on radio, Jackie North. I remember that. Yeah, we better get on with the show. Anyway, 14th of August, do come and join us. There are some bits that I haven't broadcast before, and I don't think anybody's packaged them the way I have, because it's very unusual. But I think you'll enjoy it. I surely hope you do, because it's going back to those years, and that's the important thing. And I'm sure that some of you go, flipping heck, I haven't heard that since, bleep, 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 bleep. You know?
You're still going on about it.
I am, because well, it's important. Do you realise there would be no commercial radio in the UK if it wasn't for the offshore stations?
Commercial radio's rubbish, though.
Well,
So
it is
you've got a
now.
lot to answer for.
Well, yeah, because he got hijacked by idiots.
Yeah, that's right. Hijacked by pirates.
No, the
Pirates
pirates.
hijackers, or are that hijackers?
No.
What do pirates do?
The pirates brought in proper radio.
No, it's that. Go!
Yes. And then the only guy really was the MD of Radio London. Now, Philip Birch, he went to do Radio City in the Midlands near you, where you used to live.
Did Captain Pugwash run the station?
No, and it was good when he did it.
Did they all go, ooh-ah, ooh-ah?
No.
Did Long John Silver have a station?
No, nor did Long John Baldry. But his mate.
He was my mate.
But his mate, David Such, did.
David Such had one. I knew David Such, who used to live in Lichfield, just round the corner from me when
Exactly.
he used to live in Linwood.
Yeah.
Can we talk about Charlie Chuckle now?
Hang on.
He's more interesting.
Hi, good afternoon. Had a real nightmare with Eurowings. I'm not surprised, Nicholas. There are so many issues with flights today. It is unbelievable.
Why? What happened to you?
Well, because the Ryanair guys have all gone on a strike.
I know.
Which means that all the other routes are messed up because their routes are messed up. People are getting onto different flights. It's a...
I asked him, not you.
Yes. Yes, I remember Stephen Bishop. Very much so. Anyway,
Did you ever bash him? Sorry, that's terrible.
That is really bad.
That really
Anyway, on to your mate, Barry.
I haven't got a list, I can't do it.
Oh, look, all you got to do is click the button.
Oh, look at that. That's modern technology for you, isn't it? Barry, Chuckle, yeah. Nothing to laugh at this, is it?
Not really.
No, it's and it really is a sad story. I didn't particularly admire them as performers. I'm not sure how many people did. But it's a very sad story that he kept his illness. He got bone cancer, and he kept it from his fans and even from his brothers. They didn't know how ill he was. In fact, his brother Paul was a bit miffed with him because he didn't turn up for his wedding. Then he found out the reason behind it. And it's just one of those sad stories about some people who, talented or not, have been around for a long time and have brought a lot of laughter and smiles to
In
people.
answer to your question,
What?
it's doing very well, because I was asking some people, on the BBC iPlayer, because they're rerunning the Chuckle Brothers. On
The
BBC.
Chuckle Brothers.
They're rerunning the box set series on the BBC.
Did you find them funny?
Yes.
You did, really?
Slapstick comedy.
Yeah, but it wasn't very funny slapstick comedy, was it?
It was.
I don't think so.
You had to be young in your head.
Oh, daft in the head.
No, just young. Hi to Michael, to Shirley, to Ferro, to Steve, James has just said, cancelled my flight Wednesday evening in Hanover, had to travel back to Worthing, then come back yesterday, managed to get home, and was 3.5 hours delay on my way out. Blimey.
Go by the shuttle under the sea. It's brilliant. Gets you there in 35 minutes, no hassle, and it costs us 60 quid for 2 people in a gigantic car.
Right, Naomi's going to try and give you some training in October as how to enjoy humour.
Yeah, like the Chuckle Brothers. Thanks, Naomi.
Yeah, absolutely. BBC Radio Shropshire presenter Vicky Archer has died at the age of 41. Really quite a shock to people, but I can give you some heads up on this in a minute. She was actually on air and left the programme that she was on, leaving her co-host to continue. Unfortunately, I'm sure you would have listened to her, wouldn't you?
Yeah, that's it. It really is. It's not the sort of thing I would normally put on the list because it's very, she was on Radio Shropshire, which isn't the world's greatest station.
But she was funny.
Yeah, she was, and she was good.
Yeah,
but
humour.
It was such a shock, absolute shock, that somebody of her age, she was, like you say, was 41, just shuffled off this mortal coil, apparently without anything being wrong with her.
Unfortunately, she did have some gremlins in the background.
I get the impression about it. I think the local press in the area are skirting round certain things that have gone on in her life, and nothing bad, nothing shameful, just one of those things. It was a life that was progressing.
Very poorly brain.
Yeah, it was a life that progressed.
Yeah,
she put out some messages saying that she was home alone. Her daughters were on holiday at the time, and in some way she made some comments about the fact that that people who gossip shouldn't do it. And that was it, really.
Yeah, indeed so.
Tragedy. Real tragedy.
Hi to Doug Kay. Hello, Doug. And also Steve Rowell says, hi. Very good afternoon to you, and a good afternoon to you, Steve.
There's a lot of Steves about, isn't there?
Yeah,
is it the same Steve keeps coming back?
No, it's different Steves. This is Steve Ralph. She was only half of Lee's age. Yeah, that's true. It was a bit of a shocker. Even younger was the Australian golfer Jarrod Lyle, who died at the age of 36. He fought cancer. Really did a tough call on that. And he kind of came into recession with a cure. But unfortunately it came back last year. And last week he decided to stop the active treatment. And I can kind of get that. Once you get to that level of pain, it's got to be, well...
Yeah,
quite
tragedy.
Tragedy
Again.
Real tragedy. One person is missing, and more than 1,600 have been evacuated with the aid of helicopters after torrential rain caused flooding in southern France. It is very odd, this weather.
It really is, honestly. Yeah, Britain's been flooded. We had a torrential storm here yesterday.
We did.
Yeah, and now it's gone back to blistering heat. And
but yesterday by Aqua City, where the railway line is, and actually if you look around on Facebook, you'll see some videos of it. There was like a foot of water.
Yeah, there was outside the apartment as well.
There was, wasn't there?
Yeah, the street, and it's on a hill.
Yeah, it was like
yeah, incredible.
Looked like a river.
Yeah. But the real tragedy's here, where all these people there was children on holiday, and they were in danger. There's a 70-year-old German who's disappeared. Apparently he was inside his caravan when it was washed away. Now everybody's worried that they're not going to be able to find him again. 100 children from on a campsite. They had a lot of problems. Really amazingly strange weather.
Yeah, hi to Chris and to Hafid as well. We've got new people. Wow.
Oh,
lots of new people joining us on you now. Before I forget, shall we get the slave in?
If you want.
Shall we call the slave?
Shall I call her?
Well, you see, because if I call her the slave,
yeah,
then all the girls on the chat rooms will be upset. So I'm going to say, slave, can you bring me Tony's book from the box in the office into the studio, please?
And do it in a slavish manner.
And very quick.
Now.
Like instant.
Yes.
Jump to
slave. It's terrible. We should get taken off the air.
I know we should do, really, shouldn't we?
Terrible thing.
Yeah, absolutely rotten. We are.
Yeah. In fact, I'm telling you off.
She's not even.
That's
reacted.
it. That's it. Isn't it? That's slavery for you.
That means you're going to have to go and get the book.
I'm not a slave.
No, I'm going to ask you nicely.
That's it.
She's not even doing it. Flipping heck.
Go.
Oh, marvellous. We do have a Prezi to give away. We do, before we get on to some more news. And it's a wonderful Prezi. And it's worth a lot of money, actually. Well, not a lot of money, but it's worth money. And we'll try and do a descriptive thingy on the radio. And you guys on the TV can just watch it. That's the easy way to do that. Have you got it, lad?
I'm not telling you.
Oh, thank you. He's marvellous, isn't he? Take these waifs and strays from street corners. And what do you get? So, what do we have? A really hardback book. No, I wasn't being stupid, you lot on Facebook. That was for the listeners. This is The Life and Times of Radio Luxembourg DJ and the boy in the Eastern Bloc who couldn't live without it. The Royal Ruler and the Railway DJ. I'll hold that up so everybody on Facebook can have a look at it. There it is. And we're giving a copy away.
Are we?
We are.
We're going to charge for it?
No. But you're going to tell everybody about having a chat with Jan, aren't you?
But no, it's an exclusive. It's a secret.
Well, you can. You can just give a little hint.
Oh, all right then. Yes, there is a chap called Jan Sestak, I think that's how you pronounce it, isn't it? Yeah. Who has this incredibly fascinating story to tell about being in his teenage years in the Czech Republic and being...
Oh, what then was Czechoslovakia?
Oh, of course he was. Of course it was Czechoslovakia, yeah. And he had this absolutely rabid fascination with American and English rock and pop music up to a point. He particularly liked the Stones, he liked the Beatles, but everybody has to have the faults. He loved his Royal Bobness and many of the other bands that were around at that time. And he literally, for the sake of rock and roll, took his life in his own hands. And what he was doing, he was translating the lyrics from the songs from America and Britain so that local bands in in Czechoslovakia could actually perform them at their gigs.
Yeah.
But the thing was, that was seen as absolute dissonance.
Oh, it was.
And the KGB and the equivalent were actually hunting him at times. He would be under his blankets translating the lyrics while, and I do mean translating the lyrics, while the KGB were in his garden trying to listen to what was going on. Now, the ConsumerWatchFoundation.com has actually been talking to Jan and has exclusive interviews which should be published next week when I've had a chance to read the book.
Indeed so. We're talking about the Royal Ruler and the Railway DJ. There you go.
Tony Prince is in it as well.
Well, that's very true. Jan and Tony Prince, the Royal Ruler.
Tony Prince, I've got to tell you this.
What?
Was actually, I remember him now. I remember Tony Prince. I was like a lot of people thought he was on Radio 1, but he wasn't on Radio 1. Not at all. And he was actually born just up the road from me.
He was on Corrie.
He was on, that was ages. He was in the 60s. He was a DJ in Oldham. And there were other people. There was Mike Raven. Do you remember Mike Raven?
Yes, I do.
And people like that.
He was on Capital.
Yeah.
Got to do some quick hellos now. He says, do not do it, girls. And if you do, give them both a slap from her.
Who's her?
From Naomi, I suppose.
That naughty Naomi.
I know.
I went to get it if you watched.
Hello to Mark and to Ray Clark. Hello, Ray.
Hello, Ray.
Man, he used to be on BBC Cambridge, I think, at one point.
A little ray of sunshine.
Yes, he was. And we've got the guys in from Spain. Gabby's there.
Real sunshine.
Monica's in there. And Fleming's that says hi from Denmark. So, this is the question, boys and girls. Can you see that? There's the book, there's the book, there's the book, there's the book.
It's worth a read, even though I've not read it. I've been talking to Jan, and it is really interesting. And I know Tony Prince is interesting. Can I just tell you? What, I want to tell you a true story about rock and roll.
No, you just ruined my question. I was going to ask, what was Radio Luxembourg's sort of catchphrase.
Oh.
And, of course, it was the Great 208.
Yeah, is that the question?
And that was going to be the question, but Steve Mann has just said, was Tony Prince on 208? He's just given my answer away.
Yeah, but you didn't have to read it out.
Didn't I?
No.
Oh.
Can I tell you a true story about rock and roll that happened yesterday that's very funny?
Well, now, can I ask the question so people can get answers?
No, you just said you can't ask it because he's answered it.
I'll ask another one.
What are you going to ask?
What is in common with Radio Luxembourg and Radio Tatras International? There is something in common.
Eric Wiltshire.
Well, that's true. Don't count that one. That's not the answer. Because I was on both. Yes, that's true. Yeah. So what you got to do is I need you to email studio.
I know the answer.
I need you to email studio at rti.fm. We'll pick a winner out.
Send us a message. I'll tell you the answer.
Oh, no, look what's happened now.
What? I'll put it on there again?
Yes.
Thank you. Is that naughty Steve Mann again?
No, it's that naughty Dave Rose now. He's told everybody the answer. I'm not reading that one out.
No, don't.
So anyway, if you know the answer to this question, which is now really hard to do, studio at rti.fm. It's the hardback book, The Royal Ruler and the Railway DJ. What do Radio Luxembourg and Radio Tatras International have in common? Jesus wept. Yes, right, okay. That is going to be given away. It is a wonderful read. I'm lucky enough to have had a preview copy of it from Tony. And if you remember, Tony was on here before the book came out.
He was, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was indeed, because we get all the exclusives here. That's the book. Somebody's going to get the book. Doesn't matter where in the world you are. Petra will send it out to you, because we will just beat her up if she doesn't, really.
No, don't be so rude about Petra again.
No, she'll just hit me anyway later.
Yeah, no, that's what happened, really, isn't it?
That's what.
Can I tell you my story? Can I tell you my rock and roll
This was
story
really
now?
Petra. If you're looking on Facebook, that was really Petra.
But Petra did that.
Yeah, she did.
She did. I
Yeah,
saw.
yeah,
I saved it.
There's your book again.
That's it.
You could be the winner of this wonderful hardback book. Look, it really is a hardback book, a proper one. It really
Can I
was.
tell me story about rock and roll now?
Or if you must.
It's a real story. It actually happened.
Did it?
Yes, it happened yesterday.
Well, you can remember something from yesterday evening.
No, listen, it's funny. It's really funny. His Royal Bobness, right,
This is
was
rock and roll.
performed. His Royal Bobness was performing in Perth, in Australia,
Yeah.
right, yesterday on his incredible never-ending world tour, and my daughter, Sarah, was actually there. And she heard somebody in the audience actually say, I can't believe it, Bob's just covered an Adele song.
Oh no! How thick is that? Anyway, even I knew that. Don't forget, studio at rti.fm. That's studio at rti.fm. What is the common factor between Radio Luxembourg and Radio Tatras International? And if you get the answer right, in fact, we'll get Petra to draw the winner out. We'll just put them down in numbers, and the number will be drawn out. And
You'll have to untie it from a chair, though.
well, that's true. And somebody's going to be the lucky winner of a beautiful hardback book. What was it? How does Tony put it on? He's got some subheading somewhere, wasn't it? That's it. Life and Times of a Radio Luxembourg DJ and the boy in the Eastern Bloc who couldn't live without it. The book's called The Royal Ruler and the Railway DJ. If you're not a lucky winner, I do know it's available on Amazon, so if you're not the winner, do have a read. It is a wonderful
It's worth
read.
it. It's about 20 quid, isn't it?
20, yeah, something like that.
Yeah, so it's worth it. It's worth the spend.
It's also, in a very strange way, quite funny. Because
Yeah.
when you read things in a retrospective style, you go, nah, that can't really have been like that. But it was.
It was, and actually, if you read the ConsumerWatchFoundation.com next week, you can actually see one of the KGB cars that actually hunted down people who were in these positions.
Yeah, absolutely true.
You don't know that. I've never told you that before.
No, but I know that from talking to people here.
Oh, all right then.
Sorry, how long have I lived here now?
About 3 minutes.
That's true. We move on to a contentious issue. Well, hang on, what's it? Dave's just put on the chat room for anybody that wants it. Thanks, Dave.
Yes.
No, he's just put the link to Amazon for anybody that wants to buy the book, The Royal Ruler Railway DJ. So he's put a link on the chat room.
That's right. So everybody's going to read it before I review it.
Yeah.
That's good.
Which means you'll have to do a proper job of it now.
Well, that's the problem.
You can't just you can't just crib the press notes now.
No, you know what we used to do when it was amusing.
Yeah, you used to cut and paste the press notes.
No, what we used to do, we used to write the review before we went to the concert, so it didn't interfere with the concert. And I wrote one about Errol Brown, when saying still sexy after all these years, and I said, no, you're not, Errol. The problem was, that was the review that went in. He was brilliant. I actually had to phone a review in saying, no, he is sexy after all these years.
Oh, blimey. Andrea says, hello, Eric. Andrea from Stratford-upon-Avon.
Well, hello, Andrea.
Here. It is raining. Good heavens. It's raining not in Tokyo.
No.
That's a bit of an old joke.
It is, actually.
It is, isn't it? Hello to Christine Fossey, who's just joined us. Where have you been, Christine?
Fossey?
For goodness sake.
Nothing to do with Bob.
No. She's 30 minutes late, you know. You've still left the fan on, haven't you?
Only a little bit.
Oh, goodness sake. It'll be going bzzz.
Is the fan going bzzz in the background?
Probably is. Where are we? We get onto the contentious issue of Boris Johnson.
Yeah,
who's apparently going to be investigated by the Tory party. I have no idea why. For his comments on the burqa.
Yeah. Have we turned into a country of burqas?
I think we turned into a country of burqa. I always remember, when I was younger, that taking the mickey out of... Who was that famous Irish fella? Dave Allen.
Yeah.
He would take the mickey out of religion all the time.
It's not allowed now.
Why?
Well, it isn't. It just isn't. It's just an infra-dig thing to do. But actually, I know what you're going to say. And actually, I forgot his name now, the Blackadder actor.
Yes.
Rowan Atkinson.
Rowan Atkinson. Very good driver, actually.
Driver?
Racing driver.
He is actually, yeah, but that's nothing to do with this.
Well, he's got his brain in gear, is what I mean.
No, he actually has come out and said, and people are saying he's backing Boris Johnson, and he's not exactly backing Boris Johnson. What he said is he should... No, he's saying you should only apologise, Boris, for a bad joke. This was actually quite a good joke, and I think that's right. There was nothing wrong in what he said, and actually what everybody seems to have completely forgotten about is the fact that Boris actually said the burqa should not be banned.
Exactly. Stu has also just joined us. He didn't say ban it. He wasn't... It can't be... a religious context because the burqa is not in the Quran. Where it stems from is hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years ago. In actual fact, the burqa is guilty for eye makeup.
Actually, I didn't know that, but I can see what you mean.
Yeah,
that's a very good point.
Because they used to make their eyes look beautiful to entice men, because it does say in the Quran and other books that, you know, you shouldn't walk around scantily dressed to give the wrong impression to blokes and mess them all about. So that was the original thing, but it's not in the Quran that you should wear a burqa. And it's the same as there are different versions of Islam. And in the different versions of Islam, you do or do not wear a burqa. And in fact, in some... I suppose what you would describe as Islamic countries, the burqa itself is banned.
Of course it is. But
the
point is, can I just say something? You're guilty of this. This is your fault.
Why? What have I done?
All over the internet now, people are saying, if you're in a foreign country, do as that foreign country does. And throughout the argument on Facebook about this particular subject, you've had every man and his dog jumping up saying, if you're in this country, do as we do, not as we say, and all that kind of rubbish.
I agree with it.
Yeah, in principle, it's right, but it does not mean that you have to lose your own personality or your own sense of style or your own sense of fashion. And that's what these people are saying. This is essentially...
No.
It is.
It's been hijacked. The whole thing's been hijacked.
The whole thing is... Yes, exactly.
The whole thing's been hijacked.
But it's nothing to do with doing what you should be doing in a different country.
Well, you can argue that point.
Up to a point.
Up to a point, yes. The problem with it is you've got lunatics who are connected to Islam, or they're not actually, because Islam is an absolutely caring, relaxed kind of religion anyway. And these idiots are tied into Islam, which in turn ties into the burqa. So the burqa then gets tied into the idiots, and it's got nothing to do with them. It is absolutely wrong. But where Boris is absolutely right, and I think this needs to be kind of brought up, is we do know from cases that have happened in court and other things where young ladies are forced to wear attire they do not wish to wear, and it's all done under the guise of religion, which it is not.
That's right.
And this is where it all gets wrong. The young ladies should be asked a question: do you want to wear this, yes or no? If they say no and the parents make them do it, do you know what I'd do? I'd find the parents.
I think you're absolutely right, and I think that is the nub of this matter. People are trying to draw analogies between this and the anti-Semitism within the Labour Party.
You can't.
It's a totally different thing. And if, in fact, by Boris saying that they look like bank robbers or they look like a letterbox, if that really is an inflammatory statement, then really half of our programme every week should never appear because of the inflammatory statements that we make.
Absolutely.
In the guise of humour.
Exactly.
And that's all Boris was doing.
I mean, Lee calls me fat.
I do not. I do not.
You might have done.
I've called you rotund.
Well, that's true. Nobody gets offended by it. It's a joke. You know, it's ha-ha-ha comedy.
Yeah.
And where this also goes really wrong, and I did check this because I couldn't remember the answer. There are a couple of issues where people from the Sikh community don't have to wear crash helmets in the UK when they ride a motorbike.
No, that's right. That's true. That's true.
Because of their religious persuasions.
Because the I forgot what they call it.
Turban
is a religious artifact.
Yes.
And
well, I'm sorry, if you want to ride a motorbike in Slovakia and you're a Sikh, you would have to wear the crash helmet or you get a ticket.
But you don't have to be sorry about it. It's not your fault.
No, of course it's not.
But really, who's right and who's wrong? I think Britain are right.
No, they're not.
Well, I think
Slovakia's right.
I think Britain is better in that way because it is allowing people to have their own self-expression.
I agree. But then on the other side of it, you can't walk into a bank in the UK wearing a crash helmet.
Nope.
But you can walk in with a burqa on.
Yes, and there again, it was put to me, perhaps the only place that the burqa thing should be instituted and made a real issue is in airports.
Security zones.
Security zones,
yeah, absolutely. And I don't think that Boris is wrong doing what he's doing, because if he... And there was I listened to a piece on, dare I say, BBC Radio 4. Oops, sorry, I didn't mean to swear. Anyway, and the reporter on there actually reread the article, and he read it in such a style where it was very clear what Boris was saying. And what he was saying is, I do not wish to ban the burqa, but I do want to have a discussion about who's wearing it, when and why.
Yep.
And that is what the UK was always proud of being able to do. Have a debate.
Absolutely. And shouldn't the Tory party be more interested in the way the country is heading rather than something that one of them has said, which actually had no great incendiary
Can I
quality
just remind everybody
all?
of a place in London where you can go, you can put your soapbox down on the floor, it's called Speaker's Corner, and you can have your say.
And therein is the right to freedom of speech in Britain, the one thing that most Brits seem to want to end now.
Yeah, you can't gag people. Good afternoon to Ian Gilligan, who says, good afternoon, Eric and team.
I'm a team.
Yes, and Steve says, when in doubt, blame Eric. Yeah, BBC Radio 4, nice. And actually, it's not as nice as it used to be. PM programme's all right, Don't like the breakfast show though.
It's very boring now. It is so boring.
It's all lardy
All the
dari.
way through.
It's all lardy da. Anyway, moving on a little bit. There was an interesting fact out of all this, because whilst the political parties were playing ping pong with Boris's article, Sky did a data poll, which they're quite good at doing. And the funny thing was, 59% of those polled were in favour of a ban.
I know. This is why
This
we
is
ended
the
up with
public.
Brexit.
Yeah,
This is
the
why we ended
public.
up going through Brexit, because the British public don't think anything through.
And I quote, 6 in 10 said it was not racist to describe burqa wearers as looking like letterboxes.
No, I don't think it is. I think they're 60%.
comedy.
That's 60%.
Yeah, it's comedy. It's a joke. You know, just ease on, fellas. There's more important things like this, which is a story that should be in the headlines, and it flipping well isn't. And I think this is more important than talking about burqas.
What?
And this is about the emergency services now dealing with a citywide epidemic of...
Excuse me, you
What?
just said it's not in the headlines. Where did you get it from?
I found it. It's not in the It's not in the newspapers.
Of course it's in the newspapers.
Is it?
Yes, of course it is. It's a good story. It's a story.
Front page?
Well, it's not a front page
Should
story,
be.
is it?
Should be.
No, it's
More
shouldn't.
important.
It's
More
in
important.
Stoke-on-Trent. How can it be
That's
front
right.
page?
Well, it's Staffordshire. Look what happened to Staffordshire. You got out. There's this illegal stuff called monkey dust.
Monkey dust, yeah.
And it's really dangerous. I've seen pictures of, teenagers standing on rooftops having taken this stuff. And the trouble is, it's going all over the place. It's so cheap to buy. Paramedics are running around like crazy folks trying to save kids. And I've only got one plea for anybody out there. If you see somebody with this monkey dust, it's sold in little plastic bags apparently, and it looks like heroin, but it's not.
Isn't this a legal high?
No, it's now illegal.
Yeah, but it was a legal high.
It was a
wasn't
legal
it?
high.
It's like a
I
zombie
don't want
dust.
anybody... Please do not go and say to these people, it's wrong what you're doing. Do not confront them. But please dial the police and get them off the streets, because that's the only way it's going to be done. I'm afraid there's a lot of things that are going to have to be done with people power, the likes of Lee and I as well, especially Lee with Consumer Watch Foundation, to actually put some straight talking back into the real world. And part of that is, please don't be a brave hero and get cuts and stabbed and all the rest of it. The police are trained to deal with violent people. That's what their training does. So when you see these people flogging these drugs, and it's obvious it's not cannabis, because it's not, just phone the police. Tell them. And say, if you don't like it, Eric and Lee said you got to phone up.
The thing is...
Blame us.
The thing is, legal highs found a loophole in the law, and because they were described as legal highs, people started thinking that they were safe to use.
They're not.
And they're not. They're chemical based.
Yep.
Most drugs, common drugs like cannabis, like Eric says, are actually vegetable based. That's right. Or is that what you end up as? And but they are organic.
Yeah.
And the
They're
harm,
they're not chemically made, no.
And the chemicals are what do the harm.
Absolutely. There's so many reports that are hidden about people in the drugs industry dying because they've inhaled too much of a specific drug. And if you look hard enough, you'll find them. And they are there. And these people die even making the stuff, so goodness knows what it's like when you're taking it. The sports director tycoon, love him or hate him, Mike Ashley, might just about save House of Fraser. He stepped in. I'm just wondering how the House of Frasers will deal with Mike Ashley. It's going to be a bit of a conflict, isn't it?
Well, he is quite a hard investor, isn't he? He's one of those he's a billionaire tycoon, and he obviously knows what he's doing, but he's quite deliberate in his way of handling things. So, yeah, it could be very difficult for a company like that. Why? What's wrong with the company itself? House of Fraser.
Down the toilet.
Yeah, very old-fashioned.
Well, that's its problem. It's so old-fashioned, it's down the toilet.
So it's going to have to be changed.
It's going to have to modernise.
And that's going to be painful.
Well, it is for the House of Fraser people because, the trouble is, I mean, no offence, it's very much the Blue Rinse Brigade that are running it.
Yes.
And they're going to have to learn to come back to the real world. Mike Ashley, run to the hills, says Ian. It doesn't help when you see headlines like cannabis use at a record high. Well, no, that's not kind of true either, Steve. That's headline writing, which seriously, Steve, Lee is very good at, and he will tell you how to argue the semantics of how you write at a record high cannabis in a headline.
Well, the use of the word high first is your first stopping point. But cannabis is one of the most widely used drugs within society today. The majority of people, it used to have this mystery attached to it. It doesn't have a mystery attached to it now, because more or less everybody from the age of 15 to 60 to 70 years old indulges in some way at some time in the use of cannabis. So it is at an all-time high, and that's why people are trying to make it
legal. The other thing
legalised.
is, Steve, that when the government approved, or the UK government, not the Slovak one, when they approved the use of cannabis on a medical case-per-case basis, that then gave more people an indication that the stuff's safe. Yeah. And it's not always safe. It's safe under certain conditions.
The other thing is it's very, very cheap now.
No, well, that's absolutely true, yeah. More comments coming in. Steve says, if you're a worker for House of Fraser, then you'll have to run for your life. No, you won't. No, absolutely not. Look, Steve, if he doesn't take it over, 17,500 people will lose their jobs instantly. Because the thing will go into, it will just close.
Yeah.
Now, currently, the administrator, Ernst & Young, continuing the talks with Mike Ashley, which legitimately, both in Luxembourg, where they're registered, in the UK as well for employment law, because they're talking to Mike Ashley, who may well buy them and bail them out, 17,500 people will still be employed. If he doesn't, then 17,500 people are out of work. So what would you like?
Yeah.
Staff in work or out of work? It's not a run for your life thing. I do agree some of them will find it difficult because they'll have to modernise, but that's where the problem is. The problem is House of Fraser has never caught up with the real world.
No, it hasn't, and that's it. It's an old-fashioned business which is going to have to be modernised if it is to keep a number of people in work.
Absolutely. And I can assure you that, yes, there will, I'll tell you now, there will be job cuts.
But they'll probably be at the top. Well, they will be at the top.
Well, no, there'll be job cuts in the middle management, that's for sure.
That's what I meant.
Because
really.
you've got assistants for assistants for assistants in
You're
House
right,
of Fraser.
that really is a far better way of putting it.
And those will go, whereas the people earning the money on the shop floor won't. And that's where it'll be different. But, I'm not saying I concur with Mike Ashley with all of his business bits and bobs, but, the fact is that Jackie says Eric apparently has already done the deal and bought the company for 90 million cash.
94 million, yeah.
Yeah, reported 30 minutes ago. Yeah, I want to see the Ernst & Young thing first, Jackie, before we jump up and down. But that's why we're talking in the sort of forward tense, come past tense. And Steve's right, if he treats them with respect, then that's fine. And he will find out. And the funny thing is, I don't. This is where I'm really confused. I am confused.
It's because you banged your head.
Well, this is true. There was a minority group who were moaning about Mike Ashley's other business.
Yeah.
And that's gone away.
Which other business?
The what do you call it?
That one.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Sports Direct. Thank you.
Yeah, Sports Direct. Yeah.
Right, now, there was all that hoo-ha about Sports Direct. He listened, did something, and everything's fine. So, he's a listening boss.
Well, I think if you're going to be a boss in that kind of position, you have to be a listening boss because you have to know what's going on.
Yeah.
And the genius of people of his ilk is to be able to solve the problem in one fell swoop.
He's a problem solver.
Yeah, yeah.
I tell you what, guys, I think it was fun, whilst being slightly unnerving at certain times, to sit with Alan Sugar and just watch the way he worked. Because although I was supposed to be talking to him, he just ignored me and was doing stuff. And when you see the way he works, initially it looks uncaring, but it's not. Because he would, and I'm not saying this is Alan, but most good businessmen will fire a person to save 2 other jobs. Now, what way that gets portrayed is Lee Banks has fired someone. It's never Lee Banks has saved 2 jobs. It's never portrayed that way because it never is. And that's the unfortunate thing about it.
Well, I would say that it is portrayed that way. I think going back to what you're saying about headlines, the headline is that somebody got sacked, not that 2 people stayed in work. So, but in a fair and balanced story, both aspects would be made clear. Yeah,
we're going to move on because we're running out of time. Thank you, Jackie, for the link to Reuters. I cannot use that, Jackie. Sorry, because I'd get in trouble if I did. Because we haven't got a Reuters licence. A family's demanding a council house after blowing £250,000 on cars, bikes, and weight loss surgery. You found this. You talk about it.
Well, the reason I thought it was an interesting story is because we have a welfare state in the UK that protects people if they find themselves in a situation where they have run out of money. Doesn't matter how you've run out of money. If your business has gone bankrupt, if you've spent it all, we look after you. But actually, in this case, Keith Caradouse, aged 53, was left £250,000 by his father in 2015. Now, actually, first of all, £250,000 in nowadays is not a phenomenal amount of money. But this bloke and his family managed to get through £75,000 a year to get rid of it. That's over £1,000 a week that they were spending on renting posh homes, buying cars, buying motorbikes, having plastic surgery. Now, they did. They went ahead and spent it all. He was a wagon driver. He was a delivery driver. And they had a damned good time with that money. And all's well and good on that way. But should we now be actually looking after them?
Well, no, he's actually demanding that the council give him somewhere to live.
Well, the council have said they won't. That's the
point.
point.
Yeah.
Now, is the council right?
Yes.
Nah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, he was irresponsible with £250,000. He's not on the top of the priority list for a council home if there's a list. Now, if there's one available, then fine, let him have the house. Nobody else wants it, then he can have it. But if it is that there's a queue of people waiting to get into a property, in very similar circumstances, i.e. no money, I would say, number one, whatever assets he's got left, flog them. He can use that to privately rent a normal house.
Now, here's the rub. Let me just interrupt at that point. Because, first of all, the Caradouches, I'm sure that's how you say it, the douches, actually care for their 2 disabled children. And they are claiming that because they've got no money left, they can't pay the rent. Now, shouldn't they have said, right, let's go on this mad spending spree, but let's put 50, 60, 70, 80,000 pounds on the side so we can continue paying our rent and having somewhere to live?
Or, first off, buy a house and then live with blow what's left over.
You can't get much of a house for £250,000, though, can you? No.
Well, it depends on where they are.
In the UK, well, they're in Guernsey.
Guernsey, that might be a bit hard.
Yeah.
You get a modest house.
Yeah, a modest house, but they've had a good time with the money, but they should have been responsible for themselves. So, no, I don't think the council should say, no, categorically, we will not look after you. But I think, like you say, they should fall down the waiting list. But then they've got the 2 disabled children. It's a very difficult one for that council, isn't it?
It is difficult. Yeah. It's very, very difficult. I think Steve's shouting at you.
Steve?
Yeah, he's gone,
Steve?
Lee!
What?
I don't know. That's what he said. I don't know. He's gone, Lee. Anyway, we move on because we've only got a couple of minutes to go, and I've got to do some recaps before I forget. And the first one is the book. Here we go.
The book. It's upside down.
No, it's not upside down.
Oh, no, it isn't.
It
was back to front.
He's telly mad now. Those of you watching on Facebook will be able to see it. There it is. The Royal Ruler and the Railway DJ. It's a book by Tony Prince and Jan, all about the days back in the old Czechoslovakia. It's a great read. It really is. The question is, what do Radio Luxembourg and Radio Tatras International, not me, excluding me, have in common? Send your emails to studio@rti.fm, and somebody's going to be, you're going to have a wonderful book. Thanks to Dave for putting the Amazon link on there as well. Just reminding you also that on Tuesday the 14th, starting at Monday midnight, Tuesday morning 0001 minutes UK time, Offshore 2018 kicks off.
Doesn't, does it?
It certainly does. And we start dead on time. The day we remember radio stations that were forced off the air by government in 1967.
That naughty Harold Wilson.
It was Harold Wilson's Labour bullies. But the fight for free radio continues even now.
It certainly does.
And as was suffered in 2008 by a well-known radio station that won't lie down.
Who's that?
Us.
Us? Oh, of course!
He's so quick to forget, isn't he? It's funny. Do you know, he does that all the time.
I was the one who wrote stories about this happening. I was the one who published about this in 2008 and 2010, and I was the one who was right behind you.
And you'd forgotten all about it.
I'd have just forgotten all about it for that minute.
Marvellous. Hi to Eva and to Eva and to Paul. I haven't said hello to you.
Hello, Paul. Is that Mr. Brown?
Can you remember what day of the week it was back in 1967?
Wednesday.
No, I can't.
It was Wednesday.
Was it really?
I think so.
You sure?
I'm not sure, but I think it was.
I can tell you it was a weekday, Steve, because my father's shop was open. So it was a weekday. And I know I went up to see my mates in the local football ground, who thought it was a Monday. Thank you, Jackie.
Oh, thanks, Jackie.
And
make you be able to be a liar.
Good on you, Jax. My school friend said, "Oh, you don't have to worry about it. We're going to get Radio 1 in September." That was rubbish.
Oh, what a load of... I remember that coming on. It was in my grandmother's house.
It was horrible.
And what was the first thing they played?
Flowers in the Rain.
Was it?
Mm.
I quite like Flowers in the Rain.
So do I, but...
Yeah.
But after Tony Blackburn, it then went back to being the horrible, abysmal, appalling light programme.
It did.
Even though they didn't call it the light programme. It was rubbish. You don't have to say sorry to him, Jax.
You can if you want, Jax.
Well, actually, it's Chris that says it was a Monday, and if Chris says so, it must be right.
I agree. Sorry, I just had it in my head that it was a Wednesday.
Don't know. But it's worth... One of these days I'm going to look back and sort of explain why the people look at this through rose-tinted glasses. It was the worst radio station launch I can ever think of.
Radio 1?
Yeah, in the entire planet.
Terrible.
It was awful. Absolutely awful. It was all PR puff and no go.
That was a lot of puffs.
A lot. Yeah, indeed so. Anyway, we're going to have to say goodbye because Steve, who we were mentioning earlier, is hotfoot in the green room getting ready to get started.
Are you going to ask me what I'm doing? It's important.
That's what I'm going to do now.
Well, carry on then.
Lee, what are you doing?
Well, actually, it's very interesting.
Oh, God.
Because I'm going to be making a programme about zombies.
Oh, God.
Yes, I'm making a programme about zombies breaking into a restaurant where a dinner party is being held.
And this is being broadcast next Tuesday?
Yeah, why?
After the offshore days?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Oh, my word. You just can't make it up, can you?
I am making it up.
Yeah, I know you are. Because he's just thinking, no, actually, I'm going to change it now.
No, I'm not. No, it isn't. It's about zombies. It's really good. It tells the true stories about zombies.
I think you should do some research into offshore radio and do a special.
For what, for next week?
Yeah.
I can't do it for next week.
Why?
Because I've got to do my zombie show.
You do that the week after.
No,
Yes.
I might do.
All right. Anyway, thanks very much indeed. Charles is there, giving us lots of love. Thanks, Charles. And I think that's because we're talking about offshore radio again.
Offshore radio.
It's only one time a year, girls. Honestly. What? I know why Radio 1's launch was rubbish. It was all down to the musicians, not actually the DJs. But that's another story. Anyway, thanks very much indeed for your company, wherever you happen to be. Don't forget to get your emails in. We agree, Lee is a zombie. Get your emails into studio@rti.fm. What's in common between Radio Tatras International and Radio Luxembourg? I have no idea what I'm doing this weekend. I might manage to go and do some work on my bike. Getting it all ready.
That's in my garage.
What can I say? Nothing else but see ya. Bye.